11, 2009. Broadcasting from IrvHomer.com. And those of you on the line, welcome. To those of you who will join us later on in the program, welcome to you. My website to check out that is kept up to date by my able assistant here, Ron Homer, who is now doing his own show on the Irv Homer Network. You can email me at evilirv@irvhomer.com. evilirv@irvhomer.com. We welcome your emails. As you can see, we receive quite a few emails, and we also have a stack over there. Some is, I consider, spam. Yeah. Others are quite interesting and quite cogent and quite intelligent, so we welcome your email. Now, we do have a chat room. If you've ever joined the Irv Homer Show before, you can go to the chat room and ask questions, voice your opinion. We'll be more than glad to answer them for you. We also have a telephone number that you can call in at 215-253-8877. 215-253-8877. We take your phone calls live here on the air. I suppose everyone has been absolved or absorbed in this stimulus program and, of course, the bailout. Two separate programs. One is the stimulus program to stimulate jobs. The other is bailing out corporations and companies and banks, etc., and so forth. And you must be totally saturated by now, as I am, with whether or not this thing will work. Going back to the days of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the good deal. Tomorrow will be the 200th anniversary of the birth of Abraham Lincoln. I find people commenting on what would Lincoln have done, and what would have Reagan have done, and what would what would you have done 200 years ago? The idiocy that is displayed lately on radio and television and talk radio is about more than I can stand. And I want to just bring you up to date on a situation that arose that I didn't have an opportunity to comment. Monday night I had a very important board of directors meeting of an organization that I am connected with, and that is the Sunshine Foundation, for some 30 years. And so it was an important board meeting where members from all over the country on the board of directors met. So fortunately, Ron sat in and did what I consider to be a pretty good job for his first time behind the camera and doing the program on his own. And
that was non-computer related.
Non-computer related. However, we do enjoy doing this program because I can mention things here and extend a little bit more enthusiasm than I can doing commercial radio. I thank the owners, of course, and the sponsors of mine on WBCB Radio at 1490 AM, broadcasting out of Levittown, Pennsylvania. The unfortunate thing is, it is a small station that has a limited coverage, and so a lot of folks that listen to this format can't hear it. But it is streamed. If you care to tune in at 1 o'clock, you can pick up the Irv Homer Show off your computer. And I won't say any more about that, but I do 5 days a week on WBCB 1490 AM. Some of the things behind the news, and you can introduce your comments about the stimulus program or the bailout or the hearings that were held today over the banks that were paid exorbitant bonuses and stock holdings and options and whatnot, and private jets and all the other stuff that they're getting all bent out of shape about. And my opinion is, what the hell really happened? These guys, you're giving them money, taxpayers' money, that we will pay back the obligation with no strings attached. Well, these are the nitwits that we have in Congress, both Democrats and Republicans. They have no problem handing out our money to bail out banks, and then they have a hearing to find out what happened to the money that they gave them. It's absolutely idiocy, and they get away with it because of Boobus America, namely the biggest percentage of American people who haven't got the faintest idea of where the pork chops are. Last Saturday afternoon, I had the pleasure or displeasure of going to the theater to see a Broadway spectacular that has been running on Broadway for years. And that show is Rent, R-E-N-T. I don't know how many of you saw the show, but I went with the anticipation of seeing something that was going to be educational, entertaining, fun. To tell you the truth, folks, all I heard was a bunch of damn noise for 2.5 hours. Total misery. But I had to show the person I was with that I was enjoying it. And I looked at the audience, 2,500 people at the Academy of Music in the city of Philadelphia. And I saw these doofuses yelling and screaming. Oh, no wonder. What was a bunch of screaming? You couldn't understand one word of the music. I suppose the singers were great. Suppose they were qualified with beautiful voices, but I didn't know what the hell they were singing. It was so damn noisy. And I thought, that is Boobus America. And so during the intermission, I have press credentials, and so I asked some questions during the intermission in the lobby. Like, who is your senator? 3 out of 5 had no idea. Who your state representative was and what district you live in, had no idea. Asked who the vice president of the United States was, had no idea. And if you want to know why the country's in the very best of hands, it's because of the idiots that you have to associate with every day. And it is frustrating, and people will get angry with you. So make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen. You listen to the Irv Homer show over the years, and you gain the knowledge, the common sense that I put forth on this program, and you are not going to be liked, because you're going to be involved in what I consider to be vacuous conversation. Conversation that has absolutely no merit to it whatsoever. They just don't get it. And I was going to write a book called They Just Don't Get It. So let's talk about the real issue that is concern of Boobus America. And that is the question as to whether or not sports figures use performance enhancement drugs. And Congress has had an investigation. Did you use drugs while you were batting? Did you use drugs while you were pitching? I don't want to appear to be a party pooper. And I enjoy a game of sports for what it is. Number one, it's a sport. And number two, it's a game. And when I go to a baseball game, I don't care if the guy is taking farfalitis juice or sticking 15 needles up his ass. I want to see him hit home runs. I want to see him clear the bases. I want to see a pitcher who can pitch 95 miles an hour and have the ball curve. I want to see a guy run and steal bases. I don't give a crap what's in his blood, what is in his penis, or what the hell is in his testosterone level. I go there to see it. So if these guys want to pump all that crap in their body, let them do it. What the hell do you care? You're paying $100 a ticket, $15 for a hot dog, $8 for a beer.
They better be doing something.
So what do you care what the hell they're taking? As long as when they leave the ballpark, they're not driving a car. If a quarterback can throw the ball the whole length of the field and back again, I don't care what the hell he's taking. I go to a football game to see a good game. Maybe somebody get knocked unconscious. Throw a long pass. Some guy run like hell to catch the pass. And that's why I go to a football game and enjoy football. You go to a boxing match, and if it's 15 rounds, and it's a decision, you want to see a guy get knocked out. That's why you go to that's why I go. I'm just voicing my opinion. I don't know what yours is, and I don't care. What is more boring than NASCAR? Maybe there'll be an accident and the damn car will fly up into the stands and kill about 30 people.
They all make left turns, or is it right turns?
Who cares? But this is America. This is what Boobus America enjoys watching. And that's why the country's in the very best of hands. So the question is, do you really care what these guys are? It's their bodies. If a woman can have an abortion, why can't a sports player shoot all kind of crap into his arms? If he dies, he dies. Who cares? As long as I see a good sports event. Now, if it's children, it's a different story. That's a different story. But I am tired of this listening crap. Did he shoot stuff in his arm? Did he take steroids? Did he take performance enhancement drugs or not? Who gives a rat's ass? To waste Congress's time to investigate is even worse. Now, if the people don't like the fact that they may be taking drugs, don't go to the damn game. Watch it on television for nothing. But this year, in light of all of the steroids and all of the performance enhancement drugs, the Phillies' advanced sales for next year are 20,000 people higher than this year. And now you know why the country's in the very best of hands. It boggles my mind. Saturday, I was sitting in my automobile about 5:30 at night. And what I'm about to say, ladies and gentlemen, is strictly business, not personal. My criticisms and complaints are business, not personal. If I mention any names on the program, it is done with sincerity, it is done with honesty, and it is not to hurt any person whatsoever, because I'm dealing with the issues and not the personalities, like that asshole O'Reilly picked on Helen Thomas, who has been a member of the Washington Press Corps longer than he's been telling lies on his television program. And so getting back to what I was referring to, on Saturday night, one of the members, an attorney, that I have the pleasure of sitting with on Inside Story on Channel 6 occasionally, when I'm on Sunday morning rather, and all I heard from him and one of the people who were suggested to be the national head of the Republican National Committee for the state of Pennsylvania, both who I know, both who I sit on Inside Story with, and all I heard was comments about, you know what the Republicans believe in, strong defense, smaller government, lower taxes, blah, 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 blah. And so I couldn't take it any longer. And so I called in to this lawyer who was sitting on The Big Talker in Philadelphia. And I'd mentioned to him, Greg is his first name, and he was speaking to Renee, who was the African-American dear friend, female, who was suggested to be the Pennsylvania national representative in the Republican National Committee. And I said, what am I going to do with you and Renee, Greg? I've heard you talk for about half an hour about reducing the size of government. And the boobuses were going, yeah, we got to reduce the size of the government. So you ever pose a question to a lawyer and expect to get an answer from them? So I said, can you be specific and tell me what agencies you would like to see the government reduce? And his response was some gobbledygook about Governor Rendell wanting to put slot machines or poker video machines in bars and restaurants. I didn't ask you that question, lawyer. Stop answering like a lawyer. Give me specifically the way that you can reduce the size of our government, both federal, state, and local. And I couldn't get a damn answer. So you will hear these boobuses, both Democrats and Republicans, on radio and television, sending out these crazy brochures, the 2009 Republican Party census document. Of course, they want money. Well, this is the stupidest damn thing I've ever read in my life. Must have been prepared by lawyers. Never any suggestion of how you reduce the size of government. Well, I broadcast in a strong Republican area in Bucks County. And so I posed a question to my listeners on Monday. And I posed a question to you tonight. For those of you who are ditto heads, who are insanity Hannitys, who are Madman Max Medved, and all the other degenerates that have taken talk radio and reduced it to its lowest common denominator, including O'Reilly. And I posed a question to you people. Don't tell me about reducing the size of government. Tell me how you're going to do it. I've heard criticism of the stimulus package, of the bailouts. The Democrats are socialists and America's going to a socialist country and we're all going to be working for the government. Not one of these lying bastards have ever came up with an idea of their own. A, how to correct the economy. B, how to reduce the size of government. And C, did Bush and Cheney do such a wonderful job in the past 8 years? One of the emails that I received spells it out rather prophetically. What should be the penalty for sending our kids to war based on lies, causing the death of over 4,000 American servicemen, killing over 100,000 Iraqi men and women and innocent children, looting our treasury of more than $700 billion? Oh, that's close to the $800 billion, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen, that they just passed? That was the question that was posed to me today on my commercial program. The war so far has cost us $700 billion. The bailout is $800 billion. Do you see the corollary between the two figures? Could it possibly be that the Republicans that are pissing a bitch right now and the eggheads on radio don't realize that maybe if we weren't involved in a no-win stupid war based on lies, that we would have had the $700 billion that we spent on this war so far, and they went out to borrow it to have a stimulus program or to have a bailout. When the government sucks the money out of the private sector to fight this damn stupid war for 8 years, there's no money left in the private sector to do business. If you put the two figures together, they match. Allowing our borders to welcome illegals, destroy the economy of the middle class, a trade deficit and a debt with a communist country close to $1 trillion, a national debt of over $10 trillion, 50 million people either unemployed or below the poverty level, millions of manufacturing jobs outsourced, millions without medical insurance, oil companies showing excessive profits, and most of the jobs are being shipped overseas. And so, the last administration reminds me of something my dad used to tell me. People will usually believe the lie of the emperor to the truth of the peasant. Well, those of you who know, like me, who have listened to me, know that we are the peasants telling the truth, and the guys on major market syndicated radio and television are the liars of the emperor. Senator Lay wants to investigate the Bush administration on criminal charges. But oh no, we can't do that. It'll destroy the country. It'll destroy America. Well, if the Bush and the Cheney administration get away with violating the laws that they signed on torture, false incrimination, Patriot Act, if they get away with it, what's to stop the next president or the president following that to do the same damn thing? There should be an investigation into the entire Bush administration, Donald Rumsfeld, all the generals that were complicit in knowing damn right well they were doing the wrong thing in Iraq, the wrong war, at the wrong time, for the wrong reason. And then some idiot, guy by the name of Mike Gallagher, equating the politics of fear of Barack Obama. That if this stimulus bill is not signed immediately, there will be a total collapse and a depression. That Barack Obama is dealing with the politics of fear. A lot of people saying, yeah, he's right. Yeah. Well, what the hell did Bush and Cheney conduct a war on if it wasn't on politics of fear? Didn't Dick Cheney, the vice president, say that if we don't go to war and if we don't advocate getting those terrorists in Iraq and overthrowing Saddam Hussein, we'll be all watching a mushroom cloud? The terrorists are at our door. The world's going to be taken over by Osama bin Laden. The only difference between the two, ladies and gentlemen, is A, after the investigating teams went into Iraq, they couldn't find weapons of mass destruction, so that was a lie. Bush said that there would be he wasn't the president for regime change anywhere in the world, but he made damn sure that Saddam Hussein was overthrown. That we were going to establish a democracy in two countries that haven't had any freedom from oppression since Alexander the Great. They were lies. That was the politics of fear that we were victimized with by the bloviators on radio and television, to the point where politicians are afraid of Rush Limbaugh. Who the hell is that drug addict for my representative to be afraid of some windbag that's on radio, because this idiot has enough idiots believing him instead of thinking for themselves? As I invited people all my broadcast career, think for yourselves. Question every damn thing you hear on the Irv Homer show. Pick it apart, analyze it. Tear it apart like you do with a roast chicken and eat all the meat off the bones and saturate whether or not it makes sense. Not say, ditto, Irv. And that's why the country's in the very best of hands. Because of this idiocy. But let's talk about the politics of fear that Barack Obama inherited. 2 wars that cost $700 billion so far. That's not the politics of fear. That's a fact. The fact that the government has sucked the economy dry fighting this war and propping up fake governments over there, that's a fact. The fact that there are over 8 million people today out of work or working below the poverty level, that's a fact. That's not politics of fear. Every mayor and governor in the United States is going bankrupt, where they won't be able to fulfill any budget obligations they've got, reducing the size of police departments, fire departments, food for children, help for the elderly, medical service for those uninsured. That's a fact. That's not politics of fear. The biggest industry in the country, the automobile business. Dealerships are closing up left and right. That's not politics of fear, Limbaugh, you lying bastard. And Gallagher, you lying bastard. That's fact. That's not the politics of fear. Condominiums that are being built that we're going to sell for $400,000 or $500,000 a year. As I drive around the East Coast, they're now for lease. You can rent them now because they can't sell them. That's not the politics of fear, you lying bastards. That's the truth. So when these fake, phony bastards, and you'll pardon my language, and I really don't give a crap whether you like it or not, because I'm telling you the truth. When you compare the politics of fear under the Barack Obama administration versus the politics of fear of the Bush-Cheney administration, one is a hypothetical politics of fear, the other is a real politics of fear. One of the things that we don't discuss, and right now I know the stimulus bill, and you're going to listen to all that crap on radio and television, the stimulus bill, and the stimulus bill, and what a bailout, these guys getting... But we've got a problem with human beings. And if you want to listen to radio, unfortunately the signal of my radio station is not that great so that I can be heard in 38 states. But if you want real information, and information that affects people, I suggest you listen to National Public Radio, where you will get information, conversation, and interviews that you won't usually hear or read about. But it deals with people. And I listen to National Public Radio all night, in addition to shortwave. Am I going to listen to some nut talking about flying saucers coming in from outer space? I'm a poor sleeper, so I listen to shortwave radio at night, and I listen to National Public Radio, mostly from England. And I don't know how many of you people viewing this program tonight have daughters or wives or granddaughters serving in the United States military in Iraq and Afghanistan. By the Army's own figures, there are 200,000 women. 200,000 women that are serving or have served in Afghanistan and Iraq. The delayed stress syndrome for men coming home from Iraq is about 30% come back suffering from some type of mental disorder because of the nature of the war, where there are no front lines and there is no visible enemy. They get no rest and rehabilitation because they're at war 7 days a week, 24 hours a day with the type of war they're fighting. So the exhaustion level and the stress that our men and women are under is far greater than some of the stress that women who served in Korea, Vietnam, and World War II. The women who served in Korea, Vietnam, World War II mostly were nurses, office personnel, and officers, and were career people. The women that are serving in Iraq and Afghanistan are driving tanks, Humvees, weapons, guns, flying helicopter gunships in combat. And when they're coming home, they're a little different than what their mothers were and their grandmothers that served in the military prior to this fake phony war, the Bush-Cheney war. As I said, 30% of the men suffer from delayed stress syndrome, 38% of the women that come back from this war and are discharged or honorably discharged because of some type of medical condition. The rate of homelessness among combat veteran women in America is rising at a rate that the Veterans Administration don't know what to do with. The divorce rate of a woman who comes home from combat, who tries to relive her life again with her husband and with her children, is proportionally high to the delayed stress syndrome figures. How does a woman come home after carrying a gun 7 days and 7 nights a week, come home and then do the dishes and cook her husband and her kids' dinner? If she's in a command position, how does she come home to a job that pays $30,000 a year and take orders from some nitwit who never served in the military, let alone in combat? These are the dregs of what this war is. And I think before anyone talks about war, how glorious it is, should have to be shot at by an enemy. Or you shoot and kill somebody else. I had mentioned on my program, and I'll mention it now. Yes, I served in combat in World War II. Am I proud of it? I don't know. I did a job. Had to go in the Army, and I went in the Army, and I flew an airplane, and I killed people. I don't march in parades. I don't even have my uniform. I left it at Camp Kilmer, New Jersey. I came home on the train in civilian clothes. Oh, I do have my wings. That's my uniform. I see not a damn thing glorious about war or celebrating war. And I'm tired of these folk-phony bastards on radio or television or in government who either didn't serve or served as a cook someplace behind the lines. You talk about war to me, tell me, A, what branch of service you were in, the name of your group, and how much combat time you've got. Otherwise, keep your damn mouth shut about war. And that goes for you women, too. I'm tired of hearing about the glory of war and the parades. We'll build another monument, another statue, another commemorating site. Let the dead that died in war rest in peace and leave them the hell alone. You want to shoot a firecracker off? Stick it up your ass and light the fuse. You think 4th of July is a glorious celebration? I think it's an abomination to any man or woman whoever's been in combat. I see nothing glorious about shooting firecrackers off. And I don't hear a damn thing said about the last 8 years from these bloviator bullshit artists on radio about the money this no-win war has cost us and how much more it's going to cost us. There's about 140,000 servicemen and women in Afghanistan and Iraq. The possibility exists that there may be another 20,000 for a surge in Afghanistan, which will bring up the troop deployment to about 140,000. We also have, working in the civilian capacity, 160,000 civilians. That means there's about 300,000 employable Americans serving in Iraq and Afghanistan, either in the military or in a civilian capacity. Now, I'm going to tell you why the war can't stop. Why we must continue with this no-win policy. We have now about 8 million unemployed in America. What the hell are we going to do with 300,000 more of them if we brought them back? Answer the question, Mr. and Mrs. Congressman, Mr. and Mrs. Windbag on radio. What are we going to do with them? Are there jobs waiting for them? The jobs they left? Think about it. Think about the 200,000 women that are crazy as a bedbug when they come back from Iraq and Afghanistan. And I don't say that in a derogatory manner. It's nothing personal, it's strictly business. That are mothers, future mothers, to reunite with their children, not being able to sleep at night because they never know whether there's going to be a terrorist IED under their car when they go to work the next day. This is not discussed with a stimulus package. This is not discussed with a bailout. And while these assholes in Washington, D.C., these Democrats and Republicans, and the windbags on radio and television, who don't know how to vote, what to vote, total confusion in the country right now with this bailout. If your ass was sitting in the Afghan hills somewhere, getting mortars lobbed at you, wouldn't you feel real secure knowing that the country's in the very best of hands? Do you, Mr. and Mrs. America, ever consider the fact that these people are sitting in the dregs of the geography of planet Earth in sandstorms among terrorists in a country they don't understand the language, and countries that have been involved in civil wars since Alexander the Great? And if you don't know what the hell's going on here, how do we expect 140,000 servicemen over there? What the hell are they over there fighting for? Their parents are losing their home here. Their parents can't get medical attention here. Their kids can't get fed in schools, but they're over there saving the Iraqis' asses because some nitwit like Bush and Cheney had to save the world for democracy. So don't think that the war is going to be over because we can't afford it. We must continue the war and the occupation over there so that we don't have 140,000 more unemployed people coming back to the United States, looking for jobs that are no longer there. Or 160,000 civilian employees with no bid contracts, thanks to the company that Mr. Cheney was the former vice chairman of, who was making money all during the time of this war because his profits were placed in a blind trust. Well, now he's no longer in government, so all of that money that he made is now available to him because he's not in a decision-making position in government as vice president, so now he can have all the money that he made during the war. And we're worried about CEOs of Bear Stearns, Citibank, and Bank of America. They made their money on providing mortgages mandated by Dowd and Barney Frank, them two fake, phony Democrat frauds, by giving mortgages to people that couldn't afford them. But they didn't make billions of dollars like Dick Cheney and George Bush did on this war. So where do you hear it? You hear it here. You should have the ability between your ears to think of these things yourself without me telling you. It boggles my mind. But now maybe you'll know why the country's in the very best of hands. So all of you ditto heads who may be tuning in, all you people who are the admirers of the people that I mentioned, answer me this question. Don't tell me about reducing the size of government. Tell me which branch you'd like eliminated. But you won't put it on the chat room. You won't call on the telephone because you're more interested in listening to these assholes entertaining you and you going, oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that's right. You ever think of asking him how? Ladies and gentlemen, this country's got a disease. We don't need more diseases. We need responsible people behind the microphones, behind the television cameras, of the quality we had when I first got into this communications industry. The names that I can mention are legend. You probably never even heard of them. But they were gentlemen. They were brilliant. They were street smart. And they had common sense. Not the hustlers that we've got in the media today. Be entertained by them. Laugh at their jokes, at their little snide remarks. But don't take them serious. Because you're not learning a damn thing from them that you couldn't learn by yourself. Let these guys come up with solid answers. Solid answers to the problems that exist today. And then maybe I'll have some respect for them. But in the meantime, the country is in the very best of hands. I became aware today of a situation. If you live in Philadelphia, in the northeast section of Philadelphia, in the area of Grant Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard, on the southwest corner, they have proposed a methadone drug clinic that will serve 350 people per day, or about 100 patients and staff in the building at Grant and Roosevelt Boulevard. These are drug addicts. So I will warn you of what, if you're in the proximity of Grant and Roosevelt Boulevard, if you live there, if you have a business there, what to expect. This is your personal invitation to get involved in the neighborhood's future. Committed volunteers are hand-delivering this flyer to every home in Bustleton. But if they can do it in Bustleton, they can do it in whatever neighborhood you live in. Residents had no meaningful choice or notice. The Northeast Treatment Centers is going to open a medication-assisted treatment facility, that's methadone clinic, at 9432 Roosevelt Boulevard at Grant Avenue in the former MRI building in April. The Greater Bustleton Civic League was finally told about this on January 29th after reconstruction had already begun on the building. The building is Zone C7, which allows medical uses. Therefore, there was no posting on the building to notify the neighbors. The plan was created and executed without the knowledge or the support of the people in the community. I believe Frankfurt Hospital had an MRI facility there, so it was already zoned for medical purposes. This building backs up to a significant number of residences and cannot be completely fenced off. There are over 1,000 private properties within just 5 blocks. The clinic will serve up to 350 people per day. That's drug addicts. With about 100 patients and staff in the building each hour. Now the parking lot holds just 70 cars. This facility will be open 7 days a week from 6 a.m. in the morning till 6 p.m. at night. Methadone and Suboxone will be dispensed from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. Patients will be using the most dangerous intersection in America during rush hours. Now that's one of the corners, ladies and gentlemen, that has a camera on it because of the traffic that goes by Grant and the Boulevard. Now no one denies that there are people in the Northeast who need treatment. But is this the right place? It's too busy to risk a traffic catastrophe. The neighbors couldn't be safe, even if a small number of them are criminals. This clinic will be leased and run by NET under the auspices of the clinic north of Cotman Avenue. It is your tax dollars to be funded nearly exclusively through medical assistant reimbursement, partners with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Federal, state, and city tax dollars will pay for it. They have serious concerns about the residential area around the clinic. There is no reason that the clinic's clients cannot be helped without hurting the residents who pay the taxes that fully fund the clinic. The city should have considered the needs of all its citizens and found a safer location. The Northeast target area has many sites far from homes. And all of the city council people are listed here, and all the state elected officials are listed here. That's what the Nutter administration, Governor Randall, and Barack Obama are going to give to the neighbors. Drug addicts at Grant and Roosevelt Boulevard. So stay tuned, because there may be a methadone clinic coming near you. I'm Irv Homer, and the country is in the very best of hands. To our chat room, Irv, why is the government passing bills to stimulate the economy when they can just cut taxes right away and give people more money to spend to stimulate the economy? Well, the government's thinking on it, dear friend, by stimulating the economy will be to create, according to Barack Obama, 4 million jobs. 4 million jobs will mean that people will have money to be able to pay taxes and pay the debt back. So cutting taxes to someone who doesn't have a job really doesn't make any sense, does it? Irv, where is the money from Iraq oil that Rumsfeld promised us? Well, that's a question that Mr. Rumsfeld should be put under oath and answer. If the figure was roughly $79 billion a year, since Iraq is the third largest producer of what is known as soft oil. That's oil that doesn't require too much to convert it into heating oil and to gasoline. But that was also one of the lies of the Bush-Cheney administration, that the war will be self-funded by the oil revenue that we will get out of Iraq. Now, at the time those statements were made on the other radio station where I had listeners, I discovered after doing some research that the reason that the entire oil industry in Iraq could not be turned over to America is because the oil construction, the pipelines, the pumps, the tanks were built by Russians. We did not have enough engineers in America, skilled or knowledgeable in Russian, to be able to read what the hell was there. If you go back in history, you will notice that prior to the invasion of Iraq, 600 Russian technicians and engineers were told to leave Iraq because we were going to invade it. And so the Russian engineers fled, the Russian technicians fled, and we put our own engineers in there and didn't know one damn thing about it. We didn't have the capability because we have outsourced all of our production capabilities for pumps, for pipelines, for metric system, that the entire oil system in Iraq is in metric. It's not in standard dimensions. And so we had a problem after Mr. Saddam Hussein set them on fire, A, to put the fires out, and B, to find somebody who could read Russian. Plus the fact that Mr. Rumsfeld and Mr. Cheney and Mr. Bush did realize that to guard the Iraqi oil system, even if they knew what the hell was there, would require about 100,000 troops to stand guard against the terrorists that were blowing the damn thing up. In addition to that, the water system in Iraq was built by the Germans. They complain that the electric system in Iraq, the people only get electricity about 1 or 2 hours a day. Well, the electrical and French and the electrical and communication system, the telephone system, was put in by the French. The French fled Iraq, the Russians fled Iraq, and the Germans fled Iraq. And America is very lax in dual languages. So we didn't have anybody that could speak Russian to read the oil system. We didn't have anybody to read French to understand the telephone system and the electrical system. And we didn't have anybody that understood German to be able to maintain the water system. That's the reason they didn't have electricity, that water is scarce and rationed, and we're still not getting oil from Iraq. But the country's in the very best of hands. Irv, should the neocon movement be viewed and treated as the communist movement was in the 40s and 50s? No, because neocons are not really subversive. They're just bullshit artists. My school district is talking about a tax hike in part because they want to hire a new football coach. Why don't they get Jeffrey Lurie to pay for the coach? I'm tired of subsidizing these steps. Well, why do we need sports altogether to be subsidized by the taxpayers? High school players and college players are the farm teams for the professional sports teams. And if Jeffrey Lurie or any of the owners of the major National Football League, the American or the National League, have got that kind of money, let them subsidize public school sports. Since it is their farm team anyway, they get their players from high school. Basketball players. Wasn't Kobe Bryant a high school kid when they took him and made him a professional basketball player?
And LeBron James.
So why don't the professional teams who use high schools and colleges as a farm team pay for the sports? Makes sense to me. Irv, the bloviators and the inept bankers, they are helping. May not deserve help, but that's not the point. If the financial sector isn't revived, then the economy will slide deeper into depression. Well, it will, and it won't. You cannot bail yourself out of debt by borrowing more money. What they should do, in my humble opinion, not to give the money to the banks direct, but to take the money to bail out the banks and put it in a designated fund account in which when a bank needs money for bad mortgages, prime interest loans, accounts receivable, they go to the pool and they submit an application of necessity. And if Citicorp, Bank of America, any of the other corp can prove to the agency that they need this money, then give it to them. But not give it to them first and then have them tell you what they used it for. It don't make sense to me. In addition to that, the banks should be required to have 7% reserve fund. There is no reserve fund for the banks, thanks to the United States Senate Finance Committee that over the years has reduced the amount of reserve that banks that belong to the Federal Reserve System are required to maintain. So, banks must have a reserve fund, as you should have a reserve fund in case you need a new roof in your house, new plumbing, new heater. But let's have a banking pool of money, $300 billion, whatever figure they come up with. Then let the banks come and say, listen, as you get approved to buy a car, the bank has to prove that they need X number of dollars. And at that point, you give it to them. Irv, look, the only thing that gives me some peace in the money they make me pay taxes, have any say over it, would be crazy. It is my rent money for living in this great country, and I can be evicted any day. My money is not my money, in their hands, and our secretary proved it to me yesterday. I don't get that at all. You're going to have to reword that where it makes sense to me. It's my fault, probably. I just can't read well. To the next sentence on our chat room. Red said something the other day that makes me fearful. He said in this bailout bill there was something about seniors being denied care. He said that your doctor would have to get permission from the federal government for them to perform certain procedures. I heard that, and I read the bailout proposal, and Rush is a liar. Rush Limbaugh is a liar. There is nothing in that proposal that will deny you care. The proposal that is made, and I'll make it brief because an hour is up. You have a 30-year-old that needs a kidney transplant. And you have an 80-year-old that needs a kidney transplant. And the kidney that's available is compatible with the 30-year-old and compatible with the 80-year-old. Somebody makes a decision as to who gets that kidney, right? Those decisions are made every day by the medical profession, by the donor plans, and sometimes by people volunteering to give up that donated organ so the younger person may live. I'll get into that liar Rush Limbaugh on this particular issue probably Friday night. But don't believe that lying fat OxyContin drug addict, because he uses the politics of fear. Read it for yourself. I'll tell you what it is on Friday. I'm Irv Homer. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for telling your friends about the program. And thank you for one thing and one thing only. The email that I receive from time to time is well worth my efforts to spend 3 hours a week doing this program. I don't get paid for it. There is no money generated from it. Any money that would ever come in would go to the Sunshine Foundation. I do it because, in my opinion, the information I've managed to gain over the years, the ability to be a critical thinker, is a blessing that was bestowed upon me by my parents. I don't know whether God had anything to do with it. I know my parents created me, and so I shall be ever indebted to my parents. God, I'll give you credit when you prove to me that you had something to do with it. Don't forget the Ron Tech Show began last night. Will be held every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Click on the Ron Tech Show on irvhomer.com. Once again, RGH Computer Services has a Valentine's Day special service for you if you have a problem with your computer. If you want to know anything about it, they're the people to call. 25% off on the Valentine's Day special when it comes to scanning spyware, malware, viruses, cookies. You give them a call at 215-322-8685. 215-322-8685 is their number, and they will be more than willing to help you. I'm Irv Homer, and I can only close by this. Be a critical thinker. Question these things. Evaluate it for yourself. You don't have to be a ditto head. Think for yourself. Use your brain and analyze. I'll see you Friday.